Every great change begins in silence, not in the world around you, but in the world within you. Most people spend their lives reacting to life, unaware that they are constantly shaping it through their own inner conversations. The words you speak to yourself in private become the reality you live in public. What if I told you that in just 3 days, by simply changing how you talk to yourself, you could begin to shift your circumstances, your mood, and your outcomes? This is not motivation. It is not affirmation for affirmation's sake. This is the science of assumption and the art of inner dialogue. For the next few minutes, you will be guided on how to reframe your internal speech in a way that aligns with the life you wish to live. Commit to this for just 3 days and watch how the world begins to respond to the new version of you. Your inner dialogue is the origin point of your outer experience. The words you say silently to yourself, day in and day out, form the beliefs that guide your actions, influence your emotions, and shape the circumstances you attract. Most people believe their thoughts are merely responses to life, but in truth, they are the very blueprint of it. To understand the power of self-talk is to understand the creative force within the mind. When you speak to yourself, whether consciously or unconsciously, you are instructing your subconscious mind. The subconscious does not question, it accepts. It doesn't judge whether what you're saying is good or bad, helpful or harmful. It simply records and obeys. If your self-talk is full of anxiety, lack, or self-criticism, then you will continue to find yourself in situations that mirror those inner conversations. But if your self-talk becomes rooted in confidence, abundance, and peace, then your outer world begins to shift in alignment with that new language. Most people are unaware of the constant stream of inner speech taking place. The thoughts appear as natural commentary. I'm not ready for this. I never get it right. Things always go wrong for me. And because they're familiar, they're believed. But familiarity does not equal truth. Repetition has simply made these statements feel real. The power of self-talk lies in the recognition that you are not required to continue repeating what you've always said. You have the authority to change it. Consider a person who constantly tells themselves they are unlucky. That person will unconsciously filter life through that belief. When something positive happens, they'll call it a fluke. When something challenging occurs, they'll say, "See, this always happens to me." The self-talk has created a filter that colors their perception and attracts more of the same. But if that person were to begin saying, "Things work out for me, I trust the process, every day brings me new opportunities," they would begin to notice different things. They'd see possibilities where they once saw obstacles. They'd take chances they used to avoid, not because life changed overnight, but because their inner orientation shifted. Talking to yourself in a conscious, deliberate way is not about lying to yourself or ignoring reality. It is about reprogramming the assumptions that are quietly running your life. For 3 days, if you commit to speaking only in the direction of your desire, you will begin to notice a change, not just in your environment, but in your emotions, your reactions, and your confidence. The inner dialogue becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Speak as though your words are painting your future, because they are. Repetition is the mechanism through which belief is formed. The mind learns not by single declarations, but by the persistent and consistent echo of thoughts repeated over time. When you engage in mental repetition, especially of positive, empowering self-talk, you are programming your subconscious mind to accept a new identity, a new emotional baseline, and a new standard for how you experience life. The subconscious does not distinguish between what is real and what is imagined. It absorbs whatever is impressed upon it through feeling, focus, and frequency. This means that if you repeat a thought often enough and with emotional intensity, it becomes embedded in your inner structure and begins to operate as a belief, whether it is helpful or not. This is how negative beliefs are formed, often unconsciously. A child who repeatedly hears or thinks, "I'm not good enough," it doesn't question it. It becomes a silent assumption that governs their behavior well into adulthood. Now consider the inverse. Imagine deliberately choosing to repeat phrases such as, "I am capable," "I am worthy of success," "I am calm and in control." At first, these statements may feel unnatural, even untrue, because they challenge the old mental narrative. But over time, with gentle persistence, the mind begins to accept these new statements. The resistance fades, the repetition becomes familiar, and familiarity is the first step toward belief. Mental repetition is not wishful thinking, it is neurological conditioning. Every time you repeat a constructive inner conversation, you are strengthening new neural pathways. Just like training a muscle, the mind grows stronger in whatever direction you exercise it. If you constantly dwell in thoughts of fear, limitation, or failure, those pathways grow dominant. But if you practice thoughts of clarity, abundance, and peace, you begin to shift your emotional home base. This is why self-talk must be more than an occasional activity. It must be a discipline, something you return to throughout the day. Especially during moments of stress, doubt, or frustration, your inner dialogue is most powerful. These are the times when the subconscious is most open to suggestion. If in those moments you can repeat your chosen thoughts firmly and with conviction, you are literally reprogramming your emotional responses and reshaping your self-concept. The goal is not to convince yourself instantly. The goal is to persist. The subconscious mind learns through gentle, repeated exposure. Just as water shapes stone through continual flow, your repeated inner speech shapes your identity. Say it again and again and again. You are not merely repeating words. You are forming beliefs, and those beliefs will, in time, manifest as conditions, relationships, and opportunities. Mental repetition is the quiet architect of destiny. Speak the words you want to believe, and then say them again. To truly change your life, you must learn to speak from the state of the person you wish to become. Not about them, not to them, but as them. This is the core principle behind transformation, assumption. For 3 days, you are not merely pretending or fantasizing. You are deliberately taking on the inner state of your ideal self, speaking from it as if it were already your reality. This means you do not say, "One day I will be confident," or "I hope to be successful." You say, "I am confident now, and I already am successful." These words are not a trick or an act of denial. They are a declaration of identity. The inner world does not operate by effort or time. It operates by assumption. The moment you assume something to be true within, regardless of current circumstances, you activate the creative mechanism of the subconscious. Speaking from fulfillment creates alignment. It trains the mind to accept a new standard. When you persistently occupy the inner posture of already having what you desire, your decisions, reactions, and energy begin to match that reality. And because life reflects your internal state, the world must begin to conform. For example, a person who desires financial freedom may continue to say, "I want more money," or "I'm struggling financially." But this language reinforces lack. It keeps the speaker in the emotional and psychological state of not having. Instead, speaking from wealth would sound like, "I handle money with ease," or "I always have more than enough." These aren't statements about hope. They are spoken as present fact. Over time, this shift in self-concept influences choices, habits, and ultimately results. To speak from fulfillment is to close the gap between desire and reality, not by effort, but by identity. You are not waiting for proof before you change your self-talk. You are speaking in a way that assumes the proof is already present, and that assumption becomes the blueprint your subconscious follows. This practice is not passive, it is deliberate. You must become conscious of how you speak to yourself throughout the day. When old patterns surface, when you're tempted to say, "I can't, this won't work," or "things never change," you must stop and reframe. Replace those words with your new voice. "I always find a way. Everything is working in my favor. I am already living the life I imagine." For 3 days, live in this state, not once or twice, but continuously. Let yourself be consistent with the version of you who already has what you seek. Walk, breathe, think, and speak as them. Not because you're trying to deceive yourself, but because you're claiming a truth your outer world has not yet caught up with. The power lies not in what you ask for, but in what you claim to already be. Speak from that place, stay there. Let the world adjust to meet you. When you begin to change the way you talk to yourself, something subtle but powerful starts to happen. The world around you responds. Most people believe that change must happen outside first. They wait for the job to come, the relationship to improve, the opportunity to appear, before they allow themselves to think differently. But inner work reverses that order. You shift your internal conversation first, and the outer world begins to shift as a result. This process can seem almost invisible at first. It may not come with fireworks or dramatic signs. But if you stay committed for even just a few days, you will begin to observe small, meaningful changes, what some would call coincidences, but are actually reflections of the inner transformation taking place. You may receive unexpected kindness. You may have a breakthrough in a situation that seemed stuck. You may feel lighter, more certain, more composed, even if nothing visible has changed yet. These are signs that your energy is aligning with your new self-concept. What's important to understand is that these changes are not random. They are the natural consequence of a shift in identity. When your self-talk changes, your emotional baseline begins to rise. You start to carry yourself differently. You respond to challenges with more calm and clarity. You stop engaging with old patterns of fear or self-doubt, and that new behavior creates new outcomes. Life begins to mirror the tone of your inner speech. For example, someone who has always believed they are overlooked might experience constant rejection or indifference from others. But if for 3 days that person speaks to themselves with love and worth, "I am seen, I am valued, I matter," they will begin to notice different treatment. Not because other people changed first, but because their energy shifted. Their tone, posture, and presence become congruent with someone who expects respect and recognition. These shifts are subtle but transformative. It is not about forcing change or manipulating outcomes. It is about becoming aligned with a new state of being and then allowing life to catch up. Just as a seed does not sprout the moment it's planted, your inner dialogue takes time to reflect outwardly. But the moment you begin to speak differently to yourself, the transformation is already in motion. It is crucial to pay attention during this phase. Notice the small confirmations, a surprising phone call, a helpful conversation, a sudden moment of peace. These are not accidents. They are signals. They show that you are no longer operating from your old identity, and the more you acknowledge these signs, the more momentum you build. Your life is a mirror, and when you clean the lens of your inner dialogue, that reflection becomes clearer, brighter, and more aligned with who you've chosen to become. Speak differently, hold to it. Watch how everything begins to respond, Imagination is the workshop of creation, but it is not passive or whimsical. It must be disciplined. Most people use their imagination unconsciously, often filling it with fear, worst-case scenarios, self-doubt, and mental rehearsals of failure. They imagine conversations that go wrong, outcomes that disappoint, and futures that repeat the past. Without realizing it, they are training their subconscious to accept these imagined experiences as reality. But when you understand the creative nature of imagination and apply it with discipline, it becomes one of the most powerful tools for inner transformation. For 3 days, you are being invited to become intentional about your inner world. That means you must be selective, not just with what you say out loud, but with what you allow yourself to dwell on inwardly. Imagination, when left undirected, follows the path of habit, and habits are often shaped by past disappointments, fears, or beliefs we've never questioned. To shift this, you must take control, not by force, but by redirection. Every time your mind drifts into an old mental pattern, gently bring it back to the state you've chosen. Visualize yourself already successful, already confident, already at peace. Feel it. Walk in that scene in your mind as if it were happening right now, and then speak from that place. This is not about daydreaming. It's about occupying the desired state so fully within that your subconscious has no choice but to accept it as your new identity. Discipline is required because your old patterns will try to reclaim your focus. They may appear as negative thoughts, emotional resistance, or even outer challenges. But the discipline of imagination is not in suppressing these things. It is in consistently choosing a better inner reality, regardless of the noise outside. Just as a gardener removes weeds and nurtures the seedling, you must remove thoughts that conflict with your new vision and nourish the thoughts that support it. The disciplined use of imagination is an act of self-respect. It is the conscious decision to no longer let your mind be a playground for doubt, fear, or negativity. You become a guardian of your mental space, knowing that what you allow to grow there will eventually manifest in your life. And when you pair this with conscious self-talk, the effect is multiplied. You are not only imagining the life you want, you are reinforcing it with words that match the feeling. For 3 days, guard your inner world. Do not allow external conditions to dictate your emotional state. Instead, allow your inner vision to shape your emotional state. Stay with your vision, speak from it, imagine from it. The discipline may feel unnatural at first, but over time it becomes your new normal. And when it does, you'll find that your imagination is not an escape from reality. It is the blueprint for it. You are the operant power in your life. This means that no external condition, person, or circumstance has more influence over your reality than your own inner consciousness. While the world may appear to be acting upon you, the truth is that it is always reflecting you. Your thoughts, your assumptions, and most importantly, your consistent inner dialogue. Recognizing yourself as the operant power is the first step toward reclaiming responsibility for your experiences. Many people live as if life is something that happens to them, rather than something that responds to them. They believe success is based on luck, timing, or approval from others. They believe peace is something to be found, rather than something to be generated from within. And they believe that happiness must be earned through circumstances aligning in just the right way. This belief system keeps them in a state of reaction, waiting for something outside to change before they feel empowered inside. But when you understand that your self-talk is not just a reflection of how you feel, it is a command, a directive, you begin to realize the immense power you hold. The words you speak inwardly are not passive thoughts. They are instructions to your subconscious mind, which then organizes your behavior, decisions, and even the opportunities you attract. You are not just living in the world, you are co-creating it through your internal narrative. To be the operant power means you are no longer a victim of your past. You stop saying, "I am this way because of what happened," and start saying, "I decide who I am and I create from that decision." It means your inner dialogue becomes your point of control, regardless of what is going on around you. You don't need to fix the outer world. You need to take responsibility for the inner one, because the inner shapes the outer. This principle isn't about blame, it's about authority. It's about knowing that if your current life is not what you desire, you are not powerless. You are not stuck. You have the ability to speak a new reality into being through repetition, assumption, and a consistent refusal to accept the old story. It's not about forcing results. It's about aligning with the identity that already embodies the result you want. The operant power doesn't beg. It doesn't wait for permission. It doesn't wait for proof. It assumes, it decides, it declares, and then it speaks from that place calmly and confidently, knowing the world must respond in time. When you talk to yourself like someone who already possesses peace, success, love, or clarity, you are exercising that power. And when you persist in that internal posture, the world will conform, not because you demanded it, but because you aligned with it. The real power has always been yours, not in the things you try to control, but in the words you choose to believe and repeat. Speak with intention. You are the cause, not the effect. Now you understand. The way you speak to yourself is not harmless noise. It is the quiet architect of your reality. Every inner word carries weight, and every repeated phrase becomes a brick in the structure of your life. For too long, you may have let fear, doubt, or habit write your inner script, but now you've been handed the pen. And for 3 days, you are being asked to write something new. Speak not from the past you've survived, but from the future you are now choosing. Talk to yourself like someone who believes in their own value, someone who trusts the process of life, someone who already knows that what they desire is not far off. It is near, even now, taking shape from within. You do not need to beg life for transformation. You do not need to wait for proof. You only need to persist in your assumption. Speak the language of the person you wish to be, and speak it until it becomes natural. Speak it until it becomes true, because when your inner world aligns, the outer world must eventually follow. For just 3 days, discipline your mind, watch yourself, act like a guardian, redirect it when it strays. Repeat what empowers, ignore what weakens. Use your imagination not as a memory bank of fear, but as a rehearsal space for your highest self. You are not waiting on life. Life is waiting on you. 3 days. That's all it takes to begin. Start now. Speak as the one who already is, and let the world respond to who you've decided to become.